And here we are, we're live. There's always that anticipation at the beginning that things won't work, but everything is smooth and working. So thanks everybody for joining us today for the live Q&A. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, welcome. You can drop the comments wherever you'd like, and we'll kind of pick them throughout the chat. So my name is Tara, and I'm the Senior Manager for Author Experience for Kobo Writing Live. And delighted to be joined here today with Dale Roberts, Self-Publishing with Dale. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. You know, you and I were jib-jabbing for the past 15 minutes now, and it was like, hey, Dale, we're getting ready to go live. You got to shut up.
I know. I was sorry. I was like, that's a great story, but I have to hit the live button now.
Let's put a pin in that story. I go a little long. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I love your background. You're really putting me to shame. You're so colorful. I threw some pictures up, but no, not the same.
You know, here's the funny thing, and this is great that we're going into a conversation talking about YouTube for authors. And one of the things that a lot of people look at is this background. They think that it probably cost a ton of money, but it wasn't. Like the LED lights, $10 on Amazon. Like the pictures, I think they were like maybe $15 a piece that I ordered off of Canvas Champ or something like that. Yeah. And the rest of it's just put up over there on the wall. So it looks really, really fancy, but honestly, it's pretty cheap.
Oh, nice. I gotta up my game now for the next one.
There you go. I'll send some LED lights out to you. Then you can dress it up a little bit.
Oh yeah, thank you. So thanks for joining us. I was really excited to get to chat to you. Your YouTube channel is just chock full of indie advice. So for anyone that's tuning in and that's not familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about how you got your start? I'm specifically curious about, like, did you write first or was YouTube first? And what was the passion that led from one to the other?
I tell you, YouTube would not have happened without the writing and publishing first. I actually was in a job. I was an activities director at a senior facility. I was pretty much paid to play with senior citizens as an activities director. It was an amazing job. Loved it. You know, you're going to hear a lot of stories from indie authors. You're like, I hated my job. And I loved my job. I had a great boss. I had an awesome corporation that just got behind me. And the funny thing is, I actually had a corporate wellness coach that had really saw I was a tough nut to crack. She would always challenge me with physical challenges and some dietary challenges. And she eventually said, you know, you love health and fitness so much. Why don't you write a book? And so I did. And after about a year of the writing, I had this beautiful yet hammered manuscript that I said, you know, okay, let's see about publishing this one. And long story short, I ended up tripping over the now defunct Create Space to publish my work. And, you know, the rest is history. It was about 2 years into the publishing process that I really started gaining steam, that I started to understand the whole process. And then I was able to land some interviews based on a lot of my success. And the biggest issue was, you know, I loved doing the interviews, but I also loved writing and publishing more because guess what? It was paying the bills.
Right.
So instead of being a jerk, which I find it hard to do,
it's a good quality.
Yeah. I decided, well, one of the easiest ways to answer people's questions and get them, you know, kill many birds with one stone. I was like, let's do some YouTube videos. Let me go ahead and shoot these and start uploading them. And you know what? It did decrease some of the volume of questions, but the problem is it moved all those questions over to YouTube, and then it started growing that one. And within about a year and a half, I was able to break 1,000 subscribers, I believe is how many I did. And I became hooked. I wanted to do this as well as I was doing the self-publishing end of things. So I really wanted to kind of crush it. You know, you fast forward, it's been over, well, gosh, it's almost 5 years now, going on April of 2021, that I've been in this business of YouTube. And it's amazing. It's highly addictive. I'm going to say this right now. So anybody that ever gets into this, just understand, as soon as you get your first taste of success, you're going to want to go back for more. It's like writing a good book and selling a good amount of, you know, copies that you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I've got another one for you. And, you know, you're looking at a channel that right now has over 500 videos in total. Wow. So when you say it's a resource, yeah, I kind of look back and it's dizzying. And the funny part is I actually purged about 300 videos a couple of years ago because they were either A, not relevant anymore, or B, they were kind of cringy. I was like, ooh, no. And I still have some cringe level ones, but not as bad as some of those ones I had purged that were from early on.
It must be hard to delete some of your work, especially if you put efforts into, like, have you ever re-recorded some videos?
I do it quite frequently, actually. It's a good
Ah,
idea to update a lot of your assets because from time to time, at least in the niche that I am in, where I'm talking about self-publishing, it's not really evergreen. There are some things that are always changing. So I have to make sure I go back and update sometimes on a yearly basis.
oh,
But
wow.
yeah, it was painful getting rid of those few hundred videos. And now it's even more painful because I spoke with a YouTube expert and they were like, why'd you do that? That was stupid. I was like, I'm sorry. They just pretty much said, leave those things up. And if for some reason the content is no longer relevant, then put a pinned comment in or put something at the top of your description, redirecting people to the relevant and more up-to-date information. And I was like, that would have been so much easier.
I guess that's like when authors update books or, change something, that there's often a thing in the description that says, this was previously published as, or, yeah, that's good
Exactly.
advice.
There's no reason to go through and delist anything. If for some reason your book is doing well, just do the updates or
Right.
redirect to the most relevant and up-to-date stuff. Unless your publication is complete garbage and you have a average 1-star score, then that's probably when you may want to kind of pull the plug on that.
Yeah. Valerie Eubanks has said, Dale, you're the best. So that was a nice comment there.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you so much.
Valerie. And Rich has some questions that I'll get to, but I want to just go through some of mine first.
Okay.
So what sparked your interest in video as a means of reaching the indie community? You kind of hit on this a little bit, but was your focus to use it to sell books or to become more of an advocate, or are they intertwined? One kind of can't exist without the other.
This is the biggest mistake that I made. I would say that I was a fitness author at the time when I really exploded. I think the smartest thing for me to have done back then was to actually start a YouTube channel based on fitness, because then it would lend itself to driving more traffic over to my books. So what I ended up doing was I wanted to just kind of be an advocate for self-publishing. I wanted to show people how to do it. And it came from the fact that I was always having to grind it out and finding an answer. I would have to go Google the answer. I'd find YouTube videos that were just either outdated or just outright wrong. I came in at a time in 2016 when a lot of these real scammy self-publishers, the get-rich-quick scheme guys, were
Right.
starting to leave the game. So my timing was perfect in that there might have been an audience still looking for a solution and kind of going, well, where the heck did these guys go to? And thankfully they came over to me and they're like, oh, you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. No, you shouldn't. So yeah, it's kind of goofy, but I ended up making a channel about self-publishing when I should have done one on fitness. So that way it would lend itself to that. But I don't regret it now, going a little further forward, because within about a year and a half, I would say it was into 2017 that I was legitimately I was tired of writing fitness books. I literally fell head over heels in love with, teaching people about self-publishing, about learning this, about obsessing about this. And this is one thing I try to tell people is I obsess over self-publishing so you don't have to. You as an author should be worrying about writing your next manuscript, getting it edited, or even marketing your current book or your current backlog of books. You shouldn't have to worry about curating all this information. This is the stuff that I worry about. So again, you can be a writer.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I don't know. I'm sure there's people that are watching this that I don't know if you've ever just Googled how to publish a book, how to self-publish. It's overwhelming. The
It
stuff
is.
you get. You don't know what's legit, what isn't. So I think that you have a good resource, and definitely just to the interaction of a face-to-face of somebody sort of like telling you how to do it, I think is really wonderful. Do you consider yourself an extrovert?
I would say I'm a blend of introvert with extrovert tendencies. Here's the deal is I am an introvert. I am the type of person that just likes to be by myself, doing my own thing. I am self-entertained. Like when they said lockdown and such like that, during this whole craziness, I was like, oh, okay, so I'll just keep doing the stuff that I've been doing. Here's a good context for this. And I think a lot of authors, hopefully, if you're watching this and you're feeling me, let me know inside the comment on this one. As soon as I'm done with this interview, I promise you, like I've got to go into a live broadcast over on Twitch to do some live writing sprints, shameless self-plug. And right as soon as I'm done with that, I promise you I'll be exhausted. I'm going to be literally mentally and physically spent because it takes a lot of my willpower, and my willpower tank, much like everybody else's, only has so much before it runs out. And I go, oh, okay, that's enough. So if I go to a conference, same thing. I'll be really outgoing and such, but as soon as I go back into my hotel room, it's one of those cases where it takes everything to get back up, get out of the hotel room, and get things going. So, introvert with slight tendencies of being extroverted, because I know what I can get out of being extroverted, what I can be able to benefit, and how I can help other people benefit from the information that I have from being extroverted. It sometimes is at the health of my mental well-being every now and then, but I just know that every now and then I'll take, like, say, for instance, this past week, I took 4 days off. 4 days completely off, not worrying about being online. At the end of the year, my wife and I always take an entire week off together. We shut everything down. So that way, mentally, I can kind of recover. And that way I'm not feeling like, oh, I got to go do a live stream again. I've got to shoot another video, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the authors that we work with and chat to, say at conferences, and not all of them, but quite a few would consider themselves introverted, maybe a little bit shy. Conferences are their places where they get to connect with other authors, and because it's quite can be an isolating career. So using YouTube might be intimidating. So that's kind of interesting to hear that, it sounds like you don't really think it's absolutely necessary for somebody to be this confident, extroverted, performative person to really get the benefit from using YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many YouTubers that are successful that we could point to that have worked around some of their weaknesses and really played to their strengths. There's a very big viral channel. He's not an author, but his name's Davey504. He plays bass and such. He has a personality of a fence post, like, honestly. But the thing is, the man has tens of millions of subscribers. And the funny thing is he's able to do his dry approach to where he interweaves it with humor, and people love it. It's his brand. And then there's other people. So for instance, let's go ahead and focus more on, like, say, the indie author community. Good friend of mine, Ann Banera. Ann Banera does not feel comfortable being on camera. She is an artist. So one of the nice things is what she'll do is she'll do color alongs live on the air, and she will have her mobile device pointed down at her work surface, and all they ever hear is her voice. And she will just kind of color along. And she's built an amazing community around that. So she's never had to be on camera. She tried to go on camera one time. Funniest thing, her audience didn't know what was going on. They were like, who's this? I didn't know you look like that. And it just caused, like, such an upheaval that she was like, I'm not going to go on camera anymore, because they clearly are used to me being off camera. So there's so many ways you can, make it, shake it, or bake it. As an indie author, the only thing is holding you back from creating a YouTube presence is you. You just have to get it going.
Awesome. So we have some comments coming in. So thanks everyone for the comments that are there. Just want to say hi to, we have Thomas, Emily, Nancy, Leonie, Stefan. So I'll go and pull some of these questions that we have. So one was from Richard Murray, and he wanted to get your thoughts on book trailers. He's asked specifically for a top 5. I don't know if we'll have time to go through that, but is there any good methods of using YouTube to promote your book? And if you had any examples?
Well, this is funny, actually. I think we mentioned this inside the blog post. It would be awesome for everybody to go check that over on Kobo Writing Life. I did put that together, and I did discuss the book trailer. Book trailers aren't quite what they used to be. The issue is, I wouldn't call it a saturated market, but there is a lot more authors today than ever before. About 10 years ago, if you'd release a book trailer, it was like, wow, this is cool. It's flashy. I'm going to go check out that book. Nowadays, it's not enough to stop the scroll. All right. And that's the thing, is you're vying for people's attention and just putting together something about my book. No one wants to see it. Even if you bought it over on Fiverr, love me some Fiverr. It's fantastic. Some of the book trailers look really great, but do they convert to sales is the biggest question, because if you're going to invest in something, is it going to work? Now, so I like to point out someone, a bigger YouTuber, his name's Matt Best. That's spelled M-A-T, Best as in Best Buy. Matt Best put out a video called "Thank You for My Services," and the trailer is splitting funny. I mean, you're going to laugh your head off on it. It's over the top. It shows how he created something that was so grandiose and so big and so over the top again, that it stopped the scroll. It got people to watch it and consume it and engage in it and share it. Because I can tell you, I shared it many times. I've shared it even when one of my recent publications. Like, it is that freaking good. Now, am I telling you that you need to make a book trailer like Matt Best's? No, just use that as kind of like the direction you'd like to go. The way that you could stop the scroll, the way that you could get it to where people go, huh, that's entertaining. I like that. I'm interested in getting that book. And that's going to be the big deal. So if you're going to invest any time or money into a book trailer, you need to put yourself into perspective of a random person looking at it on YouTube. Will they be interested in watching it all the way through? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. Subscribers don't really matter much of anything. Likes are okay. Watch time is king. If you can get people watching for longer periods of time through YouTube, YouTube will love you, and they're going to continue to send traffic to you time and again. So that's what you're going to want to think about, Rich, is Rich, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's what you want to think about, Rich, is you want to make sure that if you're going to put together a book trailer, make sure that it's something that's engaging, entertaining, and also brings awareness of your book.
And I guess something as well would be to kind of think of yourself as a reader. Like, what do you like to read? Do you ever watch a book trailer? Because maybe if you don't, that goes to show that maybe your readers aren't necessarily as interested. I wonder if you have any insights into, is there specific genres you think lend themselves better to book trailers?
I'm sure nonfiction would probably be the easiest. When you go into fiction trailers, I've seen some fiction ones before, and sometimes some people will just do almost like an animated still shot type, it'll show like different characters from it, and that's all well and good. Whereas with nonfiction book trailers, it's a bit easier because you can sell the value proposition that you have within the content. So that's going to be much easier. So if you're a nonfiction author, just think of a way, how can I be able to show what this book is about and entice people enough that not only they watch the entire video, but they also go to the call to action, which is, of course, wherever your book might be available, be it Kobo, Amazon, Apple, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Okay, great. We had a question from Kitty ahead of time because she may not have been able to make it live, but I wanted to ask, and I guess this hits on when you created this channel, you created it for self-pub rather than creating a fitness channel specifically. So she wanted to ask, what's your opinion on multiple channels? Do you think that that's good, or is using playlists a better way of getting the most out of YouTube?
So is she talking about setting up multiple channels for herself?
Yeah, like, so let's say, for example, if you had more than one pen name, or if you wrote in separate genres, like, what would you think about, like, should one channel be enough? Or is multi-channel something that you want to look into?
It depends on the niche. If it's a similar type stuff, I would say put it all underneath one umbrella. So let's just say, for example, you're writing Werebear Shapeshifter romance novels, and you have 4 pen names under that. Well, maybe you just do a Werebear Shapeshifter romance channel, and then you would be able to showcase those things. Self-publishing books is very similar to self-publishing videos, in that, especially on YouTube, you're going to want to make sure you niche down. Right. Because if you try to chase after every last little niche underneath one author name, your audience becomes confused. It would be like going to McDonald's one day and you're getting yourself a nice little Happy Meal, and the next day you go in there and they're like, no, we sell shoes now. What? I thought you
Can I
guys
eat
sold
them?
food. Yeah, is it edible? Yeah, yeah. So you start to really muddy up your author name. Now there are exceptions to the rules because there's Chris Fox and there's Craig Martell and there's so many other people that can genre hop. But the nice thing is they are experienced and they got enough of a backlog of books that they can rely on those things. And every now and then their readers go, okay, well, Craig just did a book on travel, for instance.
Right.
They're probably like, I don't want to see travel. I'm just going to look out for his books about self-publishing or science fiction fantasy or so on and so forth. But for those authors out there that don't have an established following, you got to really niche down. So the same thing kind of goes for YouTube. You got to niche down in order to really build out an audience. Now, you're probably saying, okay, let's get back to the original question. Putting out multiple channels, I would recommend start with one. Start with one. Because right now, I'm going to tell you this, that I manage 3 different YouTube channels right now. So I got the Self-Publishing with Dale channel. I have the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast, which just started out this year. And then I also have live streaming tech. Now, 2 of those channels are monetized through the YouTube Partner Program. It has a pretty good substantial reach. In fact, I believe we're breaking 5,000 subscribers on live streaming tech today. And we are breaking nearly 42,000 over on Self-Publishing with Dale. That took a lot of time, effort, and energy. And also remember this, as you're listening to this here, folks, I have a team that works with me. I have an assistant, and I also have a video editor that helps kind of relieve some of the tension of putting this together. If you're doing this just by yourself, one. Start with one channel, and you're going to have to pick your favorite child. You're just going to need to look at the pen name or the book that you're putting out that is pulling in the most revenue or is the most relevant, and go all in on it. Focus on YouTube, because the man who chases 2 rabbits gets none.
Yeah, I think that answers. Vicky just had a question there saying that she put together a YouTube playlist suggested by women in my nonfiction book, and it's a very specific niche. So that's all she had. And she asks, do I create the channel now? I think your answer is yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
If you've got a pretty good playlist, for sure. For sure. You and I were just talking about playlists before we got on here.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so there's a great question here from Joshua that I wanted to ask, especially with YouTube being its own audience. When you put your stuff up with Self-Publishing for Dale, do you use multiple platforms? Like, does your YouTube content go on Facebook? Does it go on Instagram? And Joshua's kind of asking, what's the best way to use content in more than one place?
Repurposing content is definitely a brilliant way to do things. Instagram, I was testing on it over the past few months and just saw moderate results. It just depends on what your goal is. For me, goal was trying to build out the Instagram page enough to where I could start to drive more traffic and build more awareness of my website, Self-Publishing with Dale, or any of my books and things like that. Facebook, I tried it out for a hot minute, but it's been a while. What I would recommend is get good on one platform before you try to spread out to other ones. I think I'm very fortunate that I'm able to, first of all, I'm able to make money through the YouTube Partner Program. And we're going to put a pin into this, and we can return to that in just a second about how to get to the YouTube Partner Program and why you should get to it. I also can make affiliate sales. I'm able to do course sales. Of course, indirectly now it's going over to my publications, and of course, which, by the way, everybody's like, wait, hang on a second. You said fitness books, right? Just so everybody knows. Okay, I do have books about self-publishing. So I just wanted to pop that one up there. And then last but not least is sponsorship deals. So I am able to have the discretionary expense and time to take a gamble on places like Instagram, places like Facebook, places like Twitch, which I'm sure we'll probably get to at some point or another. So I would say pick one platform, go all in on it. You can dabble in some other areas, but I would say try to get one platform and go with it. So if you like Facebook, go with Facebook. You like Instagram TV, go with Instagram TV. If you want to do YouTube, go with it. Either way, you're going to need to be really focused in one area before you try to spread out, because otherwise you're going to go, none of this works. Well, of course it doesn't work. You're trying to do everything all at once. Again, kind of that old proverb that I said, the man who chases 2 rabbits gets none. You want to make sure that you're focusing on one area and you have it well established before you start to repurpose the content. Now, if you have discretionary expense and you've got the team to do it, go for it. I definitely recommend probably the areas you want to look into: Twitch, Facebook for sure, Instagram, and I hate to say this, it drives me absolutely crazy, TikTok. Like TikTok is just, it's huge right now. Like I have so many people like, you need to start a TikTok. I did, but I haven't done anything with it.
I know we joke about it at Kobo Writing Life that we need one, and just like, well, I don't know if I'm cool enough to get on TikTok.
Right. We got to do a TikTok dance. It'll be the Kobo Writing Life dance.
Yeah. I do think that's really good advice that you just gave there, because we do have a lot of authors sometimes they get a bit overwhelmed, with you're focusing on your books, but then you're also doing all of your own marketing and everything, and feeling the need to be on all of the platforms. But yeah, I think it's great advice to just kind of what do you like to use? Like, because if your Facebook's not growing because you hate Facebook and hate going on there, then that's probably a waste of your energy. But if you love using Instagram or YouTube instead, like, you're probably going to get better results, because the people that are engaging with you on those platforms are going to kind of just get a feel for like if you're really enjoying yourself or not.
Bingo. People can really sense that. And if you're just getting into video because you watch some bald guy talking about how video is the thing that you need to get into, and you're like begrudgingly like, oh, I guess I'll go do it. And you're shooting a video. Hi, everybody. I'm just making this video because this bald guy said I need to promote my books through video. People are going to be like, ooh, swipe. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, you got to make sure that whatever you're doing it because you enjoy to do it. There's going to be some discomfort for some of you at first. But for instance, I got on here and even told Tara, I was like, I'm kind of nervous. I've done dozens of interviews, but I'm on Kobo Writing Life. It's just one of those cases where I'm just kind of like, so that happens. Just know that there's going to be some discomfort. But if you find that you're just detesting it and you're hating it, don't do it. Don't do it. People will know.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So we mentioned Twitch a little bit, and I'm very interested in it. I learned about it last year. I was visiting some family in New Zealand, and my teenage cousins were all over it, and I just felt extremely uncool because I did not know what it was. So if anyone isn't too sure, could you kind of summarize what Twitch is and what it's kind of mostly used for, and then how you use it as well?
Twitch is a live streaming platform that is owned by Amazon, was picked up for an estimated $1 billion by Amazon, I believe in 2014. My fact might be off on that one. But either way, when Amazon's plunking down nearly $1 billion to pick up a platform, there's got to be something to it. It was primarily started out as a gaming platform to where gamers would come on and live stream their content. And it continues to have quite a bit of success for gamers, but it has started to branch out over the past 4 to 5 years to encompass other creatives, people that are artists, writers, podcasters. They're pretty much bringing in all these things. In fact, I believe now stepping up to the forefront and probably one of the biggest YouTube or Twitch channels there is a guy named Kit Boga. Kit Boga does pretty much, he scams scammers. He gets on like these different scammer calls and he tries to keep them on as long as possible. He'll have tens of thousands of people watching him live as he does this. And it's a riot, by the way. Highly recommended. Also, ASMR, huge over on Twitch right now. If you don't know what ASMR is, Google it up. You'll be blown away. Be like, what? But yeah, Twitch is starting to grow really, really, really big. I got into it about 4 years ago, dabbled a little bit, and I didn't start taking it more seriously until about a year ago. And I'm starting to see some really great growth over in that area. Beyond that, though, Twitch is still so untapped by the author community. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you're going to get into any kind of video production and you're afraid to do a lot of recording, live streaming is probably the path of least resistance. Go over to Twitch, find other authors or writers that are doing writing sprints or read-alongs or things like that, and follow them, correspond with them, work with them, because sometimes there's private Discord channels that you can join with other authors. And what will happen is everybody kind of locks arms and work together, and they can grow their author following over on Twitch. It's another way just to build awareness. And some people might go, well, can I just live stream over on YouTube? Absolutely. The problem is there's much more competition over in YouTube versus on Twitch. You're going to compete against a gamer versus someone who's writing. Here's the nice thing is, okay, if I'm just there to watch writers, I'm not going to pay attention to gamers, which that's me. I honestly never pay attention to any of those channels. I go over to watch writing sprints or people talking about writing, things like that. So Twitch is definitely an awesome place to start if you're finding YouTube to be overwhelming. And you can get the Twitch app, or you can do it just like you would do YouTube on your desktop, any PC, Mac, all that type of stuff.
Nice. I like the idea of it for like a write along or writing sprint, because that takes away some of the pressure. When we talked about introvert versus extrovert, that maybe if you're not wanting to be so on camera, it's a really good alternative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So there's lots of great questions coming in. So I think
Nice.
We're going to switch up and talk about some like writing questions in particular. So Mega Rodcam is asking, I'm about to publish the first couple of books under my own name. I have proof that my writing works. I've been a ghostwriter, but I'm completely ignorant about self-publishing. The question, if I write one book after the next, do I still have a chance to eventually make some sort of income from self-publishing? And then followed on with, let's assume the writing continues to be good and that I dedicate myself to be learning the ins and outs. What would be the best advice that you would give to somebody that's kind of getting started, I guess?
You've got the right idea. Becoming prolific is definitely going to be a good idea. I see far too many authors that just hedge all their bets on one publication. I met a gentleman about a couple of years ago and did a private consult with him. He had met with me and was getting ready to self-publish a trilogy of books. And the trilogy he'd worked on for 5 years. 5 years. And each of the single books in that trilogy were over 100,000 words. No wonder it took him 5 years, because it probably took him 5 years to just edit single one of them. And the problem is now he's hedged all his bets on these 3 books. I think you've got the right idea in writing one and publishing one after the other. Now, am I telling you to publish one a week? No, not by any stretch. Am I telling you to do one a month? Possibly. Maybe. At the minimum, try to shoot for 1 per quarter. So that would be about 4 publications within the course of the year. You're going to have a lot of trad pub people and old school indie authors. They're going to go, oh, there's no way you can publish a book and it's going to be worth anything if you do one every 3 months or one a month. Okay, here's the good idea. First thing is, get yourself set up with a full backlog before you start a launch strategy. So that way you can have 1 per month. So this means you're going to probably need to do about 3 to 6 publications to get yourself ahead of the game. So when you do launch book 1, you still have another 5 in the queue that are going to launch thereafter. So it's being very deliberate about how you do it. So with newbies, one of the things I would say that they get stuck and get in their own way with is they're too busy trying to make their first publication perfect. I promise you, and I'm going to bring up my mic nice and close here so everybody hears this. This is ASMR style.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be very good. I hate to say it. Your first book is your worst book. It will always be that way. First book is your worst book. Now, I'm not telling you to publish hammered garbage purposely. So you go like, oh, he said, you just put out some scribble scrab and everybody's going to be like, well, 1 star. But I promise you, your first book will be your worst book. So as a newbie author, get the manuscript out there and then start to adjust as you go, because one of the toughest parts is understanding the fundamentals and the moving parts of self-publishing a book, be it through all these different platforms, instead of trying to overwhelm yourself with, well, Dale said, if I got 6 publications and I launched all these, then I'll be set to go. For newbies, get that first book out the way and then start to build out yourself a strategy, because then you're like, oh, okay, I know what I need to do for keywords. I know what I need to do for niche research. I know what I need to do for marketing and promotion previous to launching, during the launch, and post-launch, which a lot of people don't think about. And then you can just adjust it all.
I think you said the key words there, which were launch plan, which people overlook. Um, if you're kind of coming to self-publishing, I think it's really important to have a strategy, have a plan. And also not to think about this as, you know, you've missed the ball on self-publishing. Sometimes people think that because it is quite, I don't want to say saturated, but it is a bigger market now
Right.
than it was previously. But we're seeing new people coming up every year, trying out something that's completely unique, that's working, or it doesn't work. You move on. There's a different plan the year after. So I think a launch plan is really key. Decide where you want to publish. Do you want to go the exclusive route, or do you want to publish your books widely so your Kobo readers can have your books and have them everywhere where they're available? So also in terms of writing, what we always like to tell authors is the more books you have, the easier it is to market your work. Like it's
Yep.
books sell books, you know?
Yep. Nothing sells your last book like your next book.
Exactly, exactly. So Stefan had a kind of question there about the more I listen, the more I have the impression that self-publishing in English is far different than what one must do here in France. And I just wanted to address that. I definitely think that it is slightly different. I think the North American and you know, UK, Australia, New Zealand landscape kind of adopted it a little bit earlier, and kind of it's much more focused on, like you mentioned, like the keywords, the niches, your marketing, where you're going to be to your readers. Whereas Europe is kind of been a little slower to adopt, but I think some of the same practices are key and will work. Do you have any opinion on that, Dale? Do you mostly work with people that are focused in North America, or do you have strategies or how you can be successful in different countries around the world?
Quite a bit of what I do teach is universally applicable, because what I try to focus on is, first of all, search engine algorithms and how you
Right.
can be able to leverage those. And the next thing is understanding your ideal reader. When you can figure out who your ideal reader is and the delivery model of your specific publication, then it's going to work really, really well. A lot of people assume that, let's say, for instance, I go and I use a search engine in the US. They think, okay, I found this profitable keyword, or this keyword that has very low competition and high search volume. In the US, it's not as same as it is in Australia or as in UK, because relevance is how an algorithm determines what it will serve to a customer. So as a example here, let's say health and fitness, okay, or exercise here, or workouts. In the United States, it's a little different. They call it over in Australia bodybuilding. Bodybuilding over here in the United States is like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, putting on the size, you know, looking all jacked. And, you know, I was like, really? And I had this conversation with somebody who lives in Australia. Like, yeah, it's bodybuilding. I'm like, bodybuilding? I'm like, that's not okay. You know, you can't argue them, because that's what the specific region, you know, caters to. It's understanding the dialect and what is relevant to each one of those areas. So if you're working in France, that's going to be the important thing, is you're going to make sure that you're doing your research in France, that you're understanding what the market is looking for. What is the demand? How are they searching for your content? What do they expect of you? Go through the reviews of different books and see what people are doing right, and also figure out what they're doing wrong and fill in that gap.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would also say to like leverage what's available there. So at Kobo, we have teams on the ground in many places. You know, we have strategic partnerships. So we actually have a team that are based in France and Italy and the Netherlands and so on and so forth, that really know how to sell books in those areas. So like reach out to the people like me or the team, and we'll kind of help you do the best for your works. And then speaking of languages, there's an additional follow-up question there that the first books are ready in English, Spanish, and German. There's other books in the pipeline. This author is writing both fiction and nonfiction. Is it a mistake to try and hit up both markets at the beginning together?
Whew, man, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because you're spinning a lot of plates. And if you're just doing a one-man show, or one-woman show, I'm not sure if you're the viewers, what gender, but either way, you get the idea. A one-guy show, then you know it's going to be a lot of work. So is it a mistake? I wouldn't call it a mistake. You're taking on a lot more than I myself would do. I've tried it myself before and found it to just be too much to maintain. I find just launching one single book is enough work for myself, let alone trying to do multiple iterations across different languages, because I've done that before. And I got to tell you, they had okay results when I did that. And the reason is because I was split in too many different directions.
Right. So I think it goes back to the same with like the social media stuff as well, like really trying to focus your attention on one thing. But also with your launch plan, coming back to that, just to like being really sure what you're going to be focusing on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Guy has a question. He's in Montreal. His book is out. He says, thanks to you. What do
Nice.
you think of ebook subscription only models versus selling ebooks versus selling to libraries? And before you answer, I just want to just a shout out to Kobo that you can do all of that in Kobo Writing Life. It's not exclusive, so you can do that and publish wherever you like. But Dale, what's your take on this?
You nailed it on the head right there. When you can go into some type of a distribution agreement that doesn't require exclusivity, it's nice. Am I allowed to address the elephant in the room here?
Oh, of course. Go ahead.
Okay, so you look at something like KDP Select, Amazon, love them. They're fantastic. All right. They bring in the lion's share of the profits, but the issue is when you go exclusive to a deal like KDP Select, you greatly inhibit your ability to reach more readers. And let's just face it too, it's also a case of you're being paid a half a cent page, less than a half a cent per page read, and getting a moderate amount of an influence on your bestseller ranking. KDP Select's not for everybody, folks. It really isn't. But I would say the one exception to the rule is you're brand new to the business. It is a good idea to go into that while you figure out the rest of the stuff. While you figure out that Kobo does have a subscription style model that doesn't require exclusivity, while you can kind of figure those things out, because there's a lot in this business. It can be overwhelming. So I tell people at least do first 90 days and then pull it out of it, because quite a bit of the people that are making a fair amount of income there are well-established authors with a deep back catalog of books. Someone who has 1, maybe 6 books, you can make a decent earning from being exclusive, but honestly, go non-exclusive if you can help it. I'm saying this too, knowing that I have quite a bit of books over in the Select program, but I'm also saying it knowing that quite a few of them are going to be removed and going wide for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I think it's very much down to that person's business plan. Sometimes it does suit people. We obviously encourage, a wide distribution. I think, as we're talking about old sayings, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, essentially.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Diversify. That's the name of the game. You really need to diversify as an author. And honestly, like, get more readers. That's really what you should be worried about, is building a larger readership. And just by staying on one platform exclusively, again, you're kind of shackling yourself to this. And who's to say that at some point or another, you might look sideways at them and they're like, you're banned. And then you're like going, and this has happened to so many authors before. I knew of one romance publishing author that had all of his eggs in the KDP Select basket. He was pulling in 6 figures in income a month. But here's the problem. They pulled the carpet out from underneath him. Wow. He didn't have an email list. He didn't have a website. He had no online presence except for on Amazon. So guess what? He was completely screwed. He was pretty much gone. And that right there sucks. So yes, diversify.
Yeah, that is a foreboding lesson to learn for that author. I hope they were able to bounce back.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on libraries real quick, just so you can put your books into distribution through Overdrive on Kobo Writing Life really easily. You just have to enter a library price. But to just one way to, like, I would definitely encourage people to put their books through to libraries. reading some of the stats since the coronavirus lockdown and things, Overdrive are reporting like a 40% increase in checkouts since March, which is crazy growth. So if you're not making your books available to librarians, you're missing out on this. And with Kobo devices, we have Overdrive integration is like right in them, so it's super easy. And you know, you're pricing higher, so you're hitting that up. So I would definitely take advantage. Librarians are like top booksellers, you know, because books are still sold by word of mouth, which is kind of like crazy to me in this 2020 world. But librarians, your best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Still to this day, for sure. Sorry, I missed the libraries portion right there. Thank you for covering that.
Oh, no, that's okay. So, and I wanted to talk about audiobooks for a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I love audiobooks. We actually have the ability for authors to publish audiobooks just as easily as they can publish an ebook, which is so exciting. And they get to publish them on Kobo and then also our partner sites. As somebody that like you have that excellent fancy microphone, do you make your own audiobooks? How does it work? Would you hire somebody out? Like, can you talk about any process that you've done yourself?
Okay, so it's going to sound kind of crazy, but I actually used to just hire narrators for most of my audiobooks. It wasn't until recently when I pivoted.
That does sound crazy.
Yeah, I have all this fancy equipment, you would think, but unfortunately I have like 20-foot ceilings here and my apartment and such, and it's not quite fitting. And on top of that, I just don't have the time to learn the process of editing and mastering the stuff so it meets, you know, specifications through the different audiobook distribution platforms. But I recently, when I pivoted from fitness over to doing self-publishing, and it's like the most recent publication, or the first publication that I had shot off was on September 15th. So with that release, I also recorded my own audiobook at a local studio. So I got a hold of the person. I already knew him for about 20 years now. And I told him what the specs were that I needed. And he said, come on in, sat on down, and I recorded the audiobook. Now, for those of you out there that are in the business and you're, say, for instance, you have your ebook and print book. Most people at least have that. They're probably the big reservation when it comes to audiobooks is it's going to cost me a lot, or I don't have the equipment. Believe it or not, there's so many different models that you can take advantage of out there, between royalty splits to finished price per hour, that, you know, you have really little excuse not to get your book out there. Make sure, again, we're talking about diversifying, that if you're just putting out print and ebooks, what you're doing is you're leaving out another readership, and a growing readership, which is essentially listeners through downloadable audiobooks. And I would just say, try your best in getting your book put into audiobook, no matter how big or small. So for example, let's see here. I've got a children's book, shameless self-plug here. This is probably the wrong one to show, but Grumpy Gus Meets Santa Claus. I illustrated this, made this myself, and everything else like that over on Twitch. And
you do the illustrations yourself as well?
Yep, I did the illustrations as well.
Awesome.
Any rate, with that specific book, you would think, oh, gosh, it's too short. But I thought back to my childhood, and this is going to date me just a little bit, I'm sure. I used to have the vinyl records of like The Fox and the Hound.
Still have records.
Yeah. Let's see here. Green Eggs and Ham. I played the heck out of that. Fox and Socks. I used to listen to these things on record. So I'm like, well, there's no reason to do this. You know, I can't do this through audiobook. And sure enough, those things do moderately well with no promotion whatsoever. Sorry, I choked for a second there. No promotion, which is great. And I didn't have to invest very much in these at all to get them up and going. So no matter how small or how big, you're going to get towards big, you know, books, things that are epic length novels. It will cost a significant amount of money, or it will involve some risk of doing, say, royalty splits, depending on the specific type of platform, be it ACX, Findaway Voices, or even the most recent one, Audiobooks Unleashed. And you're looking at, this is an awesome avenue, folks. Do not sleep on it, because it is one of the fastest rising industries or parts of our industry. And if you're not getting on it now, you're going to regret it in another 5 years.
Absolutely. It's definitely growing really quickly. And as you're mentioning that children's books there, just to kind of speak to, we saw a huge spike, you know, when people were staying home in the spring of this year. And a lot of it was children's books, because all of a sudden there's they're not in school, they need entertainment. Lots of people have smart speakers now, and it's just, it's very easy to put on a book that can kind of entertain your child for quite a while. Do you have some courses and videos? Do you have videos that are specific about audiobooks, or do you touch on this in your courses too?
I do briefly touch that on my For Beginners course, and people can, easily pick that up. It's 100% free. I show people how to actually start into the business of audiobook publishing. I don't necessarily show the technical aspect because that's not my wheelhouse. I am not the guy that's going to be able to show you, oh, you got to get yourself a Shure SM7B and a Zoom H6 and Audacity is going to be your digital audio work. No, I honestly, that's why I went ahead and I hired a local studio, went over there, had them dial all that stuff in so that all I had to do was just upload and approve.
Nice. Thomas asked a question about how Kobo Audio works. So how it works is that we're not actually involved in the production at the moment, but if you have the finished file and you have the rights, you can upload it. Again, there's no exclusivity. You can set your own price and everything. It just makes it very easy. So as we're coming into the last 10 minutes here, I wanted to ask your insights into, you're so involved in and knowledgeable about all of the platforms that are out there, and you're really in tune with them. So I wanted to know, where do you think things are going? Like, where do you see indie publishing next year, 5 years from now?
Awareness is slowly but surely building about self-publishing and understanding it, and not so much viewing it as something bad. Because in years past, a decade ago, longer than that, you were looking at something like, oh, I self-published my book. And most people were like, oh, is that right? I'll check it out soon. Oh, that's at the library, right? Oh, no, it's in your garage on that pallet of books. Sorry about that. It's changed so much, but the problem is building awareness around it. And this is one of the reasons why I started calling myself a self-publishing expert, but that felt weird. That's why I started calling myself a self-publishing advocate, because I'm the advocate for self-publishing your books. We see so many of these authors that are very talented out there that are too busy trying to chase after TradPub deals and hoping that they're going to land the right agent that's going to get them the right traditional publishing deal just so they can get an advance, which is essentially like a bank loan, not sell enough copies, not be marketed enough, then have to pay all that money back. And then they're way in the hole, and they could have just gone straight over to self-publishing. I think over the next 5 years, the landscape's going to change. What I would like to see, this is what I'm going to say, what I like to see, because everybody needs to understand this is opinion from this point on. I would like to see someone step up to the plate. I'd like to see a platform, hint, hint, that will see about being the direct competition to Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. Because I've seen KDP do some people wrong, and they get away with ambiguous guidelines to where they just ban people just for whatever reasons and say, oh, just read these rules. You should be familiar with that. No, I'm not. You're not telling me what's wrong. So what we need to do is we need to hold them not only accountable, but we need to bring somebody to the forefront, a platform that has ebooks and audiobooks, and potentially print books. If we can get that trifecta in one place, that right there is going to make them really make a run for their money. And I've seen a platform doing it. It's called Publish Drive. The biggest issue I see with Publish Drive right now is it's a subscription-based model. Not enough people are going to be willing to make the risk or take the risk, put the money on themselves to go do that. We need to see something that's going to be much like KDP in that you can upload content for free and have a revenue share of some sort. And I think that a company with wide distribution and enough reach and enough marketing dollars are going to make a huge difference. Who is that company going to be? We don't know. But it would be nice to see all three of those things. And audiobooks, I'm going to say this, I've already said it over the last year or two, audiobook sales are going to end up completely casting a shadow over ebooks. Ebooks used to be everything, and now it's just kind of like tapered off. It's not gone down by any stretch, but it's tapered off. People are still buying tons of print books. But I think audiobooks are definitely going to see about surpassing ebooks at some point or another because it's easier to digest. It's easier to consume.
Do you think it's because of the popularity of podcasts? As somebody that has your own podcast, do you think that lends to why people like listening to information?
Yeah, the nice thing about listening information is you can multitask, and you will see quite a bit. Watch how people consume their content, how they're doing things, because they will be listening to something and maybe even scrolling through their social media feed, or maybe they're reading a book while they're listening to music. People are always doing multitasking. So I think that's why podcasts are on so much of a rise, because you could be commuting to work, you could be working out, you could be even taking a shower and listening, consuming to this. So this means you can be able to do many things at the same time, and people are starting to understand that. And since everything is pretty much more accessible than ever with audiobooks and podcasts, that's why it's starting to really, really build. And, with different apps that you can easily put into your phone, between, say, for instance, Spotify or even Audible, things like that, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. We learned that actually with when Kobo moved into audiobooks, that the marketing was quite different than ebooks, and that a lot of the focus is, here's the best audiobook for a long drive. Here's the best audiobook for while you're working out. It was all activity driven, or, audiobooks to fall asleep to, but not in a bad way, to like lend you into a nice lull.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm curious now myself, what are you reading at the moment? What do you like to read in your spare time?
Right now, I've been peeling through Craig Martell's series of indie author books. I'm just about ready to wrap up on that, and I'll probably go back into Joanna Penn's, because Joanna Penn has a very deep back catalog of books. Love everything Joanna Penn does. She's just such a fantastic person.
Yeah, and if you listen to her audiobooks, you get to hear her lovely voice. She's got such a nice accent.
She does. She's so fantastic in everything she does. Always such a positive influence, and I really enjoy watching her journey and such. She's definitely somebody I find inspiring and motivating.
Yeah, I know Stefan is just joking that you have spare time between Twitch and YouTube and everything that you're doing.
I make spare time. I do. And believe it or not, a lot of people think that it's a hustle culture where I'm like 24/7 hustle. No. I get a solid 8 hours of sleep every night. Otherwise, my wife is a complete wreck, and then naturally I'll be a wreck in turn.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for chatting. This is great. I feel like we could keep going easily for another hour. And thanks to everyone for the wonderful questions and engagement. So Dale, where can people go to find out more about you and to kind of see what you're about and follow you, and YouTube, obviously?
Yeah, you can definitely check me out. YouTube, Self-Publishing with Dale. Just search that on up. I've got the main channel and also the podcast channel. So that's at youtube.com/self-publishing with Dale or Self-Publishing with Dale podcast. Those are the two channels you can check out. Or if you remember Self-Publishing with Dale, just go to selfpublishingwithdale.com. That's my main website. And you can see all of the different publications that I have and different ways to get a hold of me and some of the things we even discussed during this interview.
Awesome. And is there anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't bring up throughout?
No, not at all. Is Kobo ever going to get print?
You really put me on the spot. I really walked into that one, but
yeah.
I mean, never say never, but it is not where our focus is right now. We're really trying to make the digital reading experience the best that it can be, between, our e-reading devices and the apps. Like, we do everything in-house. So, I mean, not now, we're all remote, but we design and build the e-readers that we have, doing all of the apps to try and make them as good as possible, and just very much moving into that. And then also focusing on expanding the subscription reach that we have. So we launched our subscription platform in Canada this year, and it's been going really well. So trying to see where else in the world can that also do well from. So not now.
Yeah, well, I was talking about the subscription-based model with, probably mutual friend Mark Lefebvre.
Oh yeah.
He and I were chatting about it about a month or two ago and such, and I was just like, I'm super excited that you guys rolled that out, because that was a nice alternative. So well done on that. Maybe one day. A man
Yeah,
can
and
wish and dream.
yeah. And what's interesting about the subscription model is that it is a different audience. It's not necessarily your standard ebook reader, the people that consume things as a subscription. It's kind of like reaching a new, widening the net of readers per se.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dale.
Thank you
And
so
thanks
much for
to
having me.
everyone. Yeah, no, this was great. Next time we get you back, I'm going to have a lot of neon in the background and we'll compete.
There we go.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.